Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being a part of our training today. I'm Troy Duggar with the Center for Profitable Agriculture and the project director for the Tennessee AgrAbility project. We'll be looking at several things today to kind of make some introductions to our project itself. Introduce you to our new nonprofit partner, Jennifer Cunningham with the Star Center. And we have with us also Eileen Legault, our Eastern Region specialist for AgrAbility. And we want to just kind of give you an overview of what we have in our AgrAbility project today. This kind of couple of the first slides kind of summarize some of the things that we look at in AgrAbility, helping farmers with disabilities live independently and to farm profitably. We provide technical assistance. In AgrAbility, we try to find some resources and solutions, and we do some education outreach and professional trainings. Some of the farmers with disabilities that could be temporary or permanent disabilities that make their routine farming and daily living tasks may be difficult, but hopefully not impossible. A lot of these farmers want to get back to doing what they were doing. So that's part of the AgrAbility project and doing those things. All of these, the injuries could be a result of a farm work-related injury or illness. As we see the farming population today getting older, it could be age-related conditions such as arthritis, back problems, vision or hearing impairment that we beginning to deal with more and more. And then the families are impacted by a lot of this as well, because loss of productivity on the farm, reduced income, and maybe even a loss of independence from time to time. Our mission statement is basically this: to enhance the quality of life for farmers with disabilities and to help eliminate obstacles that block their success. This is the basic mission statement for the Tennessee AgrAbility project and the national project as well. Many of our families that have been touched by a disability of some type, to enable that producer, that family member to get back to the lifestyle that they once enjoyed, at least to get back to a portion of that and continue to do the things that they want to do on their farming operation. With that, also, it brings about extension into the arena. Also, extension, as we all know, brings about some of the research-based education to the community about agriculture, about family and consumer sciences, about resource development, youth programs as well, and brings all of that knowledge to the Tennesseans exactly where they live. So that's part of the AgrAbility project as well, in cooperation with the Extension Service in our state. Call your attention to the right part of this screen, the saying that's there that kind of shows what AgrAbility, why it does what it does. Is we know about life. We know life doesn't always go according to plan, and that sometimes everyone can use a helping hand to get back on course. So that's part of the reason for our behind the Tennessee AgrAbility project also. You may have seen this map before. This map kind of gives us an idea of where the projects are across our nation. The yellow states are the 20 states that have state projects with the AgrAbility project. The light colored, like Kentucky, see those. Those are some of the affiliate states who may have had a AgrAbility project at one time, but do not have it any longer as far as their funding might go. They still may do some things in AgrAbility, but they don't really have the full-fledged program as we might think of it. And there are several states that do not have the project. Maybe they just haven't had one. We do know there are some that do apply for the funding for it at times and just not have been granted. Their proposal just was not accepted. But we're one of the 20 states that has the AgrAbility project. We're certainly glad of that. It's been around in Tennessee since 1994. Serving about 1,700 families since that time through the Tennessee AgrAbility project. There is one national AgrAbility project supported out of Purdue University and kind of oversees all the work, the state projects across the nation. Just as any other thing has to have lots of partners, certainly we do the same thing with the Tennessee AgrAbility project. We have partnerships across the state. We have national state partnerships, again, between land-grant university and at least one disability services that we'll talk about a little bit in just a moment, nonprofit partner with that. So we have an agreement with USDA, University of Tennessee Extension, Tennessee State Extension are the partners with the land grant institutions, because extension services are the ones that go through the proposal to get the funding for this. And then we have some other partnerships with us across the state. This particular picture was the one when we visited Star Center in Jackson back in the late summer, early fall. Just quickly, some of those in the picture, myself on the left, Joetta White, who is our Western Region Specialist with AgrAbility, Jennifer Cunningham, Vice President for Client Services with Star Center, you'll hear from in just a moment. Dave Bratcher, who's the President of Star Center, Eileen Legault, who's on our call this morning, also our Eastern Region Specialist with AgrAbility, Finus Striblin, representing Tennessee State University, and Finus works with us in the AgrAbility project also, and Kim Lilly, Tennessee Technology Access Program. Kim was on one of our calls last year as we had as part of our in-service as well. So some of you may have come across Kim in the past. Just quickly, some of the things about our clients and some of the farmers with a disability. If you notice the quote right there in the middle, the leading disabilities, when we look at some of those things, and these are some information back from 2018, 2019, back injury, joint injury, and arthritis. Some of the leading disabilities of some of the clients and some of the farmers that we serve. Many times when you think about AgrAbility and some of the disabilities that folks have, a lot of people look at the, if you will, the larger disabilities, amputations and those type things, but it is some of these other things that we see the most of: back injury, joint injury, arthritis. The bubble there on the left, 48.5% report chronic illness as the primary cause of their disabilities. So we see a lot of that as well. And then 44%, a little over that, primary disabilities were the result of an injury that has caused them to have what they have today. Just some of those whom we serve and some of the categories that you look at, again, goes back to some of the things that we just mentioned there. This is not a comprehensive list of everything, but again, if you look at some of the injuries, as we've already mentioned, it might be spinal cord injury, it may be amputation, it may be back issues, the disability and diseases, arthritis, MS, diabetes. I know some of the family consumer science agents over time have dealt with some of the chronic diseases, and certainly see some of that here with the AgrAbility project as well. We noted also the aging population of farmers, and so that relates back to the next category, even vision loss, hearing impairment, or just not being able to get around the way in which they once did. And a lot of people overlook some of these things as far as the AgrAbility project goes. Don't think we might serve those or have anything to help those folks with, but certainly, again, if we go back to our producers on the farm, aging population, certainly these things show up as well. And then the last one here that Eileen does work with our veteran farmers and those that have PTSD or traumatic brain injury and some other combat related issues that they may have. Eileen does some work with a lot of our veteran farmers, and a lot of those that are coming out of the military are certainly want to get into agriculture of some type as much as they can. One of the last things I want to touch on here in this section is the 4 areas, or our priority areas. These are the things that we have to cover in our grant proposal. We talk about the education that we would do. Certainly it'd be workshops, certainly be this type of in-service that we would put on, other online type educations, and work with some of the others and some of the master farm programs that we are working with now. Also, do a lot of networking with other groups, peer support groups across the state. Direct assistance, this is more where Joetta and Eileen would come in and others when they might come into working with some of the clients, some of the farmers, as they may visit with them on the phone. They may set up site visits, consultations with them, and then on down the line, depending on what that producer wants to do, continuing to farm. They may do some business planning. Some of the managed folks help us on that end as well, but they may do some business planning with them. And then we strive to do a lot of marketing. We need to continue to get the word out about our project among extension folks, among the clients and farmers. Also, due to the pandemic, we haven't been at as many trade shows and meetings and those kind of things, but I hope we'll get back to some of that before much longer. So those are our 4 service priority areas: education, networking, direct assistance, and marketing that we have to look at doing. So Eileen, I'm going to turn it to you for just a few moments.
All right. Thank you for joining us to learn more about Tennessee AgrAbility. I'm just going to add to what Troy said. I'm Eileen Legault. I cover the eastern half of the state, and Joette and I work together. And like Troy said, we mainly do the education and outreach. And then in between helping the farmers, we spread the word marketing about AgrAbility. We provide all these services at no cost to our clients. We'll have recommendations of assistive technology or adaptions. And a big part of what we do is referrals to services they don't know about, whether it's extension. We ask them if they do know their extension office, where it's at in their county, and it could be referral to vocational rehab services. Our day is usually planned, but when we get that referral email or a phone call from a farmer with a disability, that's our number one priority with Tennessee AgrAbility. We start by asking the farmer what's their biggest barrier or obstacle to farming, or what's the challenge they have now since the onset or diagnosis of their disability. What's the injury or health condition, and what does it keep them, or how does it keep them from farming? So if they call us, we have them think about that before we set up the farm visit with them, if a farm visit's necessary. And again, we ask them if they know their county extension office. We build relationships with all our partners for them, and we're the point of contact. Sometimes we don't refer to vocational rehab, and we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. The on-site assistance. You can see in this picture on the left, there's a ramp. You think with American for Disabilities Act, you see ramps in all the buildings. Well, you need them for your buildings on the farm also. Once we get the referral, we have an intake form that we'll either email them to them, or a lot of our older farmers, Joette and I will just ask them the questions on the farm. It's basically the information about what's their disability, what services are they looking for, how did they hear about us, and we just talk to the farmer. But if we do an on-site farm visit, ideally we like to talk to all of the family, because as you all know on here, there's different family consumer science people on our call or the ag agents. Farming is a family affair. The farm, it's both their job and their home. They may have off-farm jobs, but it involves a whole family in different ways. So if someone has a disability, whether it's a spouse or the child, it's going to affect their whole farm operation, and will add to their long list of tasks that they already have. So we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And one thing that we notice a lot, and I think most of the extension people on this call can relate to, the wife will tell you one thing and the husband will tell you something else. So that's why we try to get everybody to sit down at the kitchen table, or since COVID, we sit outside on the porch. And we just try to figure out what's the solution. It could be simple as just altering their task on their farm, or sometimes it's commercially available equipment. And we're going to show you some of that here in a minute. First of all, we want to be clear what AgrAbility does not provide. Unfortunately, we do not have funds to pay directly to anyone, especially the farmer, or to buy equipment. We are referral to funding sources, or the appropriate funding sources. With AgrAbility extension specifically, someone's like, how do I qualify for this? We're not the VA or a veteran service where you have to show us a bunch of documents. If you tell us you have a type of disability, we're like, how can we help you? And if we don't have the solution, we'll figure out who can help you. So you're eligible for AgrAbility if you just call us, if you are a farmer and you have a disability. That's our two qualifications. There's all different farm sizes. But then some of our other partners you may not be eligible for. But we always check. If we know you're going to have some assistive technology that can be costly, we immediately refer you to the state vocational rehab services, which Jennifer is going to talk a little bit more in a minute. And vocational rehab and Social Security, they have eligibility determinations based on criteria like functional limitation, how the disability affects your employment. And there's experts on that we refer you to. And so that's very important that we do that as beginning if we're going to need state funding. A few other things on here. The bottom one, sorry, just one more, Troy. The last one's real important. A lot of times we don't have to refer to vocational rehab. It's something small like a step or a handrail. We use a local source or community partner. And Joette and I always ask the farmer, who do you do business with? Who do you get your insurance from? Or where do you buy your feed at? And then we will be the one that asks for the donation. And that happens more times than not for the small, low-cost assistive technology. So you may say, what is this assistive technology they keep talking about? AgrAbility specifically works with ag-related assistive technology, which is any agricultural device, modification, or service that will help the farmer with a disability continue farming. The unique characteristic of AgrAbility is the assistive technology enables a farmer to keep farming. It can be something as simple as an automatic hitch system that for a person without a disability is just a time saver, but to the person with the disability, it's a necessity for assistive technology. The next slide shows we've got the toolbox. It is based at our National AgrAbility's website that the last time I looked, it had over 1,300 products to help farmers with disabilities. If we had more time, we'd go through and show you lots of different examples, but we reference this website all the time. You can Google AgrAbility, AgrAbility, and find the different resources that are on there. You type in the type of disability, like limited mobility, and it will give you lots of solutions. And again, I encourage you to go look at this site when you have time and look at different examples and call any of us if you have any questions about some of the assistive technology on there. On the next slide, we gave two quick shots of some of the common types of assistive technology. These are the higher. The tractor lift is the one at the top. Life Essentials is the main one that's made a name for themselves. There's two different types. One can mount on a flatbed truck, and they can use it on various types of equipment. This one's mounted directly on the tractor, and it transfers from the wheelchair up to the seat of the tractor. And we've got a couple of these in Tennessee that were funded by the state vocational rehab services, and we worked with vocational rehab and Star Center to get those funded. The bottom left is, we call it our 4x4 wheelchair. This one specifically is an action track chair. And a lot of the veterans like this one because it gets you around the farm. Any of us on the farm, if it's a muddy day, we have trouble walking around our boots. Imagine being in a manual wheelchair and you get stuck in the mud. This is like a tank on the farm, and the farmers with mobility issues love that chair. A couple other examples, you see the GPS to help guide the farmer. Again, helps all farmers. The backup camera, we recommend this a lot for farmers with spinal cord injuries, or they could have discs in the back of their neck, or that they just can't turn. They don't have full mobility. So it's a safety issue too, because there's a lot of blind spots on a tractor, and we'll have extra mirrors. And then the right one is the automatic hitch that I referenced. Jiffy hitch is a real common one that we recommend. The next slide shows more simple, low-cost assistive technology or types of adaptions that we recommend. The bottom one, the left are extended steps. And this, a lot of times we use with a farmer. It could be a temporary disability like a knee replacement or a hip replacement, but it can also be chronic, that sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad days with arthritis, and the extra step or the handrail makes a world of difference. And we've recommended those a lot. The ramp, necessity to get in the house if there's steps. On the right, you've got the fence line feeder. It's a safety issue for someone with mobility issues or other disabilities that they can't move around fast, but it keeps the farmer away from the animals. If there's a whole bunch of them, you get that feed out and they all come running. And then the bottom one, the farmer came to us, he used a cane and he would use it to open the gate, but he'd have to get up and down. And one of the rehab engineers at Georgia designed this. It's a drive over ramp that keeps the cattle in, and it eliminates the need to get in and out of the UTV vehicle or a truck. And then the next slide, this just shows the picture's a little hard to see, but these were two examples of farmers we worked with. The bottom left is Michael Norrod, who again, he got one of the flatbed truck lists from Life Essentials. That was all the partners that work with AgrAbility, we call it our team. And we had a certified driver rehab specialist come out, an occupational therapist that evaluated his hand controls and to make everything safe for the farmer. And then VR, he went through the process to be eligible, and we did a business plan. And then so his was a mobility issue, but then the farmer on the right had low vision, or it's retinitis pigmentosus, or RP for short. And the vision specialist, which Jennifer will talk more about here in a minute, and the ag extension agent worked together. He needed to read the cattle tags, and it's a wand that went to his VR, got him a new iPhone because he had an old flip phone, that they funded a new iPhone for him, and it could read with just an app. That it's changed his world. So next, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Cunningham with the Star Center and let her tell a little bit about what they do.
Thanks, Eileen. I feel like Troy and Eileen have really talked me up this morning. I hope I am able to fulfill some of the leg up they've given me a little bit here. But anyway, so the Star Center, we're actually located here in Jackson, Tennessee, as you see on the screen. We've been around for about 34 years. We're a nonprofit agency, and back in the late 80s, there was a family here in Jackson, West Tennessee, that had their two youngest children began to lose their eyesight when they were about 7 or 8 years old, and sort of traveled the world to even get a diagnosis. And then once they had the diagnosis and knew what the future sort of held for those two children, they had to figure out what to do as far as moving to like the West Coast or the Northeast to find services and products and technology that was more progressive than it was in little old West Tennessee, or should they start something here? And so just taking into account they had 3 older children who were already integrated in the schools and athletics and community events and things like that, they sort of took that information that they had learned from sort of traveling the country and started a program here in Jackson. And so, like I said, we've been around going on 34 years here in a couple months, and we have primarily served West Tennessee outside of Shelby County. And I know Eileen mentioned vocational rehabilitation a couple of times. And so our biggest funding partner has historically been, at least since the early to mid 90s, has been vocational rehabilitation. And so the primary purpose of vocational rehabilitation, which is a state program that receives some federal funding as well, is to help people with disabilities get along to employment. And so whether that means going to training or college or with technology or things like that, they try to provide them with the supports and services and things that they need to be successful ultimately in employment. And so that has certainly been a big part of our history. We do other things too. We work with school systems. We work with the VA in Memphis and Nashville now, and looking to partner in East Tennessee as well. But come back around to the assistive technology part. Historically, there were 5 centers across the state that sort of did what we do here. They're all individual. And so the state came to us a couple of years ago, actually, gosh, I guess it's almost been 3 years now, and said, we like what you're doing in West Tennessee. we have a need in Middle Tennessee for y'all to assume the same role in 40 additional counties. So almost 3 years now, we've been covering about 60 counties of the state out of the 95, and doing what we do with assistive technology. And I know I talk a lot about that, and you'll see some videos and some things along the way here in a minute too, that'll kind of highlight some of that. But it can be something as simple as, you know, a reacher that somebody picks up something off the ground, to something high tech that costs, like Eileen was talking about, some of those lifts and track chairs and things that cost many thousands of dollars. So for the past 3 years, we've kind of been covering the 60 counties, living life. Things are going well. We had hired a couple additional people in Middle Tennessee. And then the state came back this past year and put out a request for proposal across the whole state, to anybody who was willing to apply for assistive technology specifically. And so our president, as Eileen and Troy have learned over the past year or so, he's really a yes man. And so we had the ability to either just go for sort of the areas we were already serving, or expand to all 95 counties. And so we put in our application, on my part a little hesitantly, on his super excited, to cover assistive technology across the state. And back in September, we were awarded that opportunity. And so now we've hired additional people, and we are serving all 95 counties, which came along about the same time that AgrAbility, we were working through the grant with them, and we couldn't really tell them about this other opportunity. But so we were really excited. It all kind of partnered up, and so now for vocational rehab and for AgrAbility, we're across the state. And so we've hired additional professionals there in the eastern part of the state, and middle as well, to be able to provide those services. And so you know, we're super excited now. Statewide, kind of given us a new opportunity to serve more people. Our mission statement is to help any person with any disability to realize their potential. And that can be a farmer, as well as it can be your next door neighbor, or your child, or your grandmother. It doesn't really matter. Another thing that you see there on the screen is the Technology Access Program. And that's another grant that we have that's, we're still covering about 60 counties for that grant. And it's to provide loans and demonstrations of technology to people who might be able to use it, but maybe they're really not sure. So sometimes we'll show them something here in the center, or even in their home, and be able to provide that to them for a couple of weeks to kind of try it out and see how that works for them. So the TTAP program, as we like to call it, really helps determine sort of what's going to be best for them. So just bringing in vocational rehab, AgrAbility, and ourselves now, we're just hopeful that we'll be able to serve lots more farmers across the state, whether, like Troy was mentioning earlier, whether it's something not so devastating, just the chronic illnesses, the arthritis and the diabetes and things like that, or whether they've had some kind of an illness or injury that has prevented them from going back to the farm. So we're on board with AgrAbility, and we're learning more every day, and feel like every day this week is something AgrAbility in our lives. But just glad they had us on here. And like I said, the ultimate goal with any of them is employment. So whether that's a farmer who needs to return to their fields, or whether it's one that's new in the pipeline to become a farmer. So.
And then here's an example of the farmer we were talking about in Bedford County. Mr. Barber, he was a 7th generation farmer, and he's a beef, cattle, and hay farmer, and he also has low vision. And Star Center was very instrumental. They have a assistive technology specialist who's also legally blind herself, who helped the next slide shows the assistive technology that they helped fund for him. The first one, some of you that work with cattle farmers may have seen it for different reasons, but it's a True Test stick reader. It's almost $2,000, and the technology on it, plus the OrCam, My Eye 2, is still fairly new. So everyone's real excited about the possibilities. It's going to help farmers with low vision. It can be used for lots of different applications. And you see the glasses, and again, the technology goes to the smartphone and tells him whatever he's trying to read, whether it's medicine to give his animal or instructions for himself to know what to do with something. And then here, we're just going to show you a quick video with Jason.
Right now, we're approximately at 60 to 65 beef cattle. It's been in the family since 1866. It's basically all I know.
Jason Barber has never wanted to be anything but a farmer.
It's just a way of life.
But in recent years,
They diagnosed me with a condition of retinitis pigmentosa.
a new challenge has literally made it hard to see the way forward.
My peripherals are still basically intact, but my central vision is slowly decreasing.
Jason's vision is especially a challenge with cattle, where he needs to be able to read these tags to identify his cows to keep track of which ones are making money.
If we've got said cow that's been here for 2 years and not had a calf, we need to move her on and get some fresh livestock in. Whereas if I'm out here with no idea about that cow, then I'm feeding and wasting money on a cow that's not producing.
That's where our vocational rehabilitation program has made a few helpful moves.
73.
Starting with introducing Jason to assistive technology, like this smartphone app that reads his cattle tags for him.
Up till a year and a half ago or so, I was still using the old flip phone. So I'm just now stepping into the age of technology and finding out just how useful it can be for someone in my particular situation.
The next step is special eyeglass technology called an OrCam. Our program is providing Jason with the device to help read his cattle medication, and we're working on applying it to other farming needs,
Give F tablet 10S.
with the goal that someday Jason will be a sight more independent, even with limited vision.
A lot of the times I would have to ask for someone to come help me, and this gives me a lot of my independence, which is the primary goal here, to not have to rely on other people.
And then here's another example that we've referenced a couple times. This is Michael Norrod. He's in Putnam County, and we're going to show a video of the Life Essentials lift. And there's the action track chair we talked about that goes through the mud. The next one's the video.
It got me out of the house, more active, doing things that I enjoy doing. Mowing hay, raking hay, helping my dad take care of this farm.
Farming
It's just a way of life.
has been a part of Michael Norrod's life.
Since I was big enough to ride in my daddy's lap on a tractor.
Getting on that tractor was never an obstacle
I was in an ATV accident.
until 6 years ago,
It took my life, more or less.
when an accident cost him the ability to use his legs.
Well, I mean, that was just the end of it. I mean, there was no more walking outside and getting on a tractor and going to work. I mean, it's roll outside, and there's no way to get on a tractor without some kind of assisted equipment.
No way until Michael learned about this new type of assistive technology
Everything's remote controlled.
that lifts him from his wheelchair to his tractor or his truck.
For me, it worked perfect.
The Tennessee Department of Human Services covered the cost to modify Michael's truck with a lift through its vocational rehabilitation program. And today,
Vocational rehab helped make this possible.
Michael is back in the driver's seat
I can go outside and get in a vehicle and go to town.
of life.
Well, I mean, I went from sitting in the house watching TV and YouTube and stuff with nothing to do to I have all kinds of things to do now. It picks my wheelchair up, takes it with me. I can go anywhere I want to do. I have no limitations now.
The next group we want to talk with, a lot of you may have people come in your office that are veterans who also farm. AgrAbility, we've had a strong veteran outreach and have referred people to programs that can help them be successful farmers. One group is the Farmer Veteran Coalition, and we in Tennessee got an official chapter last May. There's not been a lot of traction of meetings with COVID, but we hope that's going to change in 2022. They have a strong membership, over 1,000 members just in Tennessee alone. FVC is it's short, Farmer Veteran Coalition. The partnership we have with them, the skills they learn in the military are so transferable to farming. So we, with Extension, we are in a unique position to help this growing number of disabled veterans who either wish to start farming or return to farming. And we see it as a source of viable employment for farming, and we want to help these veterans. Some of them have disabilities that are not visible, and farming really helps them heal the wounds of war that we can't see. And we're not going to talk about it today, but in the future, we're going to talk about some of the horticulture therapy programs that we're working with UT Gardens on that I think some of you will be interested in. So look for emails on that. Here are some of the resources that we reference. Again, our national partners have so many, a wealth of information of resources that we reference. You can go to that webpage when you have time, AgrAbility. And the one that pertains to this topic is they have beginning farmer resources, which are a lot of the veterans with disabilities, but you may have a beginning farmer that's not a veteran with a disability. And that's where our partner at Tennessee State University, the Tennessee New Farmer Academy, AgrAbility offers scholarships across the state for veterans with disabilities to participate in the program, which is a 7-month certification program, but they only meet once a month. And we like to call it Beginner Farmer 101. Jenny's one of the teachers over here in East Tennessee, and she says drinking from a fire hose because there's so much information they give them, but it kind of gives you different ideas of what type of farming you want to do. Finest Stribling started it in Middle Tennessee, and then he branched out to East Tennessee, Morgan County, and in Memphis with Joanne Waterman. So any extension here that's not familiar with this program, when you have beginning farmers come in, refer them to that. And I know you're also aware we refer farmers. They all need a business plan. It doesn't have to be tons of pages. We're just looking for a 1-page business plan. What's your goals? What do you want to do on the farm to be successful? And we refer them to help with their financial situation, to talk with the ag economists or the experts with UT Manage. And again, you all know where to find that on our extension webpage. There's a lot of the master classes that you're aware of, and a new one we're very excited about is the UT Farming Fundamentals, which they can get the financial farm planning online and do at their own pace. And one that's we're in the works to bring out, may not be till 2023, is some safety programs. Gearing Up for Safety is one of the curriculums that we're looking to help farmers be safe on the farm. And the last thing I want to talk about, again, I referenced the Farmer Veteran Coalition. Here's one of our success stories, an AgrAbility farmer in Union County, Damian Berry. He got one of those wheelchairs to not get stuck in the mud. Look how much mud's on it. He's a U.S. Army veteran, but he's also a dog trainer. He's a quadriplegic cattle farmer, and he's the East Tennessee rep for Farmer Veteran Coalition. AgrAbility recommended the track chair, but we were actually able to get funding for it through a veteran foundation, the Independence Fund. And because he was a Farmer Veteran Coalition member, he got a $500 discount on a track loader, which we did not have to make any modifications to because it's a brand new track loader, and he can transfer himself, and it's got hydrostatic controls, so it doesn't need any hand controls. And the last thing on this slide I want to mention, if you see at the bottom right, if you do have a veteran in your county that's especially a beginning farmer, there's a fellowship fund that there's a small window. It's open for a month. It's been open in January and it closes February 14th. You can see the link down there, or you can Google National Farmer Veteran Coalition, and there's a fellowship fund, and there's step-by-step what they need to do. It's a competitive grant, but they can get up to $5,000. The picture shows Damien, it's a cattle chute. He got that through the fellowship fund, and his ag agent helped him, Shannon DeWitt in that county. And so that's a success story that you could have in your county, but they'll need help with the business plan and knowing where to find the information about it. And just as always, you can find us on Facebook. We try to post current events, our new webpage. You can see agrability.tennessee.edu. We have some videos on YouTube. We're going to increase that in 2022 is our plan, right, Troy and Jennifer?
That's right.
This video will be on there probably. And also you can Google Star Center, but there's a link for them on our website. Yes, Mary Nell, I see in the chat box, she's asking for information on the fellowship fund.
And this is just our other points of contact. I know most extension probably knows this, but for others as well, we find us with TSU, my information, Joetta and Eileen. And then if you need direct contact with the Star Center, certainly we can get that to you as well. Just one of the last things we want to do, we've got just a few minutes. I wanted to show you this video, also Mr. Frank Beard in Rutherford County. And he was able to get help twice through some of the funding over 16, 18 year period. He wore the first lift out and needed another one. Actually, maybe got a couple for his, one for his other tractor also. I don't know if you've seen this video or not. If you haven't, bear with us for about 5 or 6 minutes if you don't mind. And then we'll close our program and then open up for other questions after that. Eileen, you need to add anything to this one?
No, that the video speaks for itself, I think. And like you said, he was a repeat customer. His technology wore out, and 20 years later, Joetta helped him again. Same process with our partners with vocational rehab.
It helped us as young people to grow up and learn to work. And they taught us spend some and try to save some for the hard days might be coming in. And we have enjoyed a lifestyle that have blessed us over the years to learn to work. And I believe in working. I still like to work, but my disability have kind of slowed me up some, but I have did well.
For 76-year-old Frank Beard, growing up on his parents' and grandparents' farm in Rutherford County has always been a blessing. That's where he learned the values of education and hard work, qualities that have guided him to this day. He took ag and shop classes in high school, and after graduation in the early 60s, he began working at Courier Printing and also farming on the side, where he helped his family with the cattle and row crop operation. But on November the 9th, 1982, a farm accident changed everything.
I had taken off from work during the day to get my beans out and picking corn, and one morning on the day of the 9th, I was going up to my grandparents' place and to pick corn, and I got hooked up and my wagons and everything, and I was picking corn and got almost loaded, and you know them old case pickers would sometimes they would just jam up with stalks, and for some reason I just wasn't thinking. I normally jump off of the tractor and knock the PTO off, but for some reason I just jumped off of it. I guess I was thinking about getting to work. I supposed to be going at 3:30 in the afternoon, And as I jumped off of there and backed my tracked up enough to get all the stock pulled out, and some reason I got too close to the chains and just walked up in the middle of that thing and caught my pants. I had a brand new pair of blue jeans on. And once those chains catch you, and you pull them on them in them snapping rollers, and once them snapping rollers get a hold of you, you know, just keep grinding on you until they just, you know, just grind my legs almost off. And that's when they found me in the corn picker. I was still alive, but barely. And my brother-in-law took off back down the road to call. Went to one of my neighbors and got the phone. And when they got me to Rutherford Hospital, Dr. John came out and said that we're going to try to get him stable enough to get him to Vanderbilt Hospital. And that's where I was. And when I went in, they told my family, just come on back to see him because he probably ain't gonna live through the night. But God had other plans for me. I had a few more goals I wanted to achieve, and God allowed me to achieve those goals. And from this day on, I always tell people, it's not about me, it's about what God has done for me. I make an effort, He always give me the help increase, which I'm so thankful for.
After several operations and months of rehab, Frank Beard adjusted to his new life with his artificial legs, and with the help of his wife and many others, he was determined to get back to farming. He continued to become more independent and adapting the best he could, and that's when he became aware of Tennessee AgrAbility, and that changed his life again.
And for some reason, I met Joetta White. They were looking for someone and the handicap that they had a lift they wanted to give them to put on their tractor. And Joetta White called me and came down and talked to me and said, Frank, we got a lift we're going to put on your tractor. From that day, AgrAbility have been very good to me, helping me out. Without the lift, I could not continue to farm. So I didn't have the strength to lift myself up on the tractor any longer. I can bush hog, I can cut hay, I can roll hay. AgrAbility have helped me in my farming, now they help me put a lift into my house, to where at the time I would go up the steps and have to, or sometime I would take my legs off and I would just have to slide through the house to get in my chair. But now I can ride my chair out into the garage, get in my vehicle, get in another chair, and I can go to the barn. It made it so much more convenient for me to get out in the field. AgrAbility helped me get a gator that I can use around the spring. I spray a lot. And then they have helped me to complete my goal. I have been blessed in this community. When I needed help, somebody always show up. But with AgrAbility, they have helped me to continue to enjoy what I really like. End of story.
Pretty powerful video every time I see it. And, we just want to take a minute to show that to you all. Hope you enjoyed it if you haven't seen that at all. Thank you for being with us. Before we cut off, I want to thank you for being with us. I want to hold it for some questions if anybody has anything, but I'm going to pause the recording at this point and just open it up to any